Thank you for tuning in on Cop with Comic. I'm Brian Koppen. We're with Comic Sam Sherwood. Sam Sherwood, how the hell are you?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Good. Thanks so much for coming on because we're following you during the quarantine. You're putting some stories on your Instagram. You were Sam Sherwood _ at Instagram and also Sam Sherwood _ at Twitter.
Yep, that's me. Just kind of hanging out on Instagram, doing stories and posting tweets. That's all I got going on right now.
And you might have a podcast coming out soon, and I guess it's it's in the works. It's going to be Sam Sherwood's unique take on everything, and kind of what kind of details are you ironing out, like what platforms to be on, etc.
Yep. So I'm really working on like a video podcast kind of thing. Thinking about YouTube, maybe IGTV, some gaming clips, some hot takes, kind of whatever. Just my personality coming through to the internet. Kind of held off on it for a while just because felt like everybody was releasing a podcast, especially comedians. I love what you're doing. You're taking off from just, New York City comics, shining some light on them. But for me, I didn't really want to just do the same thing as everyone else. So held off for a little bit, but now we're coming strong at them.
Yeah, I think if you do all the mediums, like you said, I mean, you listed a bunch, and if you're just doing every single one, especially if you're on things like, I don't know, Twitch or YouTube doing gaming. I know Kyle Lewis does some gaming.
Right.
Some gaming stuff, which I like a lot. And so if you're doing all those things, especially you need video because Sam Sherwood's a good-looking cat.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm thinking about naming it the Sam Sherwood Show. Keep it pretty simple. Triple S.
Yes, Triple S.
There you go.
Yeah, because the SS is taken.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
Took. Yeah, the SS. And so what are some of the gaming things that you're seeing? I just downloaded Kingdom Crusaders 3, which just came out. And I think it's war game and things like that. I also do NBA 2K and Madden and Grand Theft Auto and the Civilization 6. So what kind of games are you into, and what goes into, like, are you good at them, and what would you be a comic take at you being inept at something, or are you being amazing at it?
It's a little bit of both. Me thinking I'm amazing, but in the reality, I'm not a big virgin, so I'm not that good at the games. Just losing to a lot of 12-year-olds mostly. But yeah, a lot of Fortnite, Call of Duty Warzone, the pretty sheepish games that everyone plays now. I kind of hop on, but it's really just we play for like 12 hours a day now, me and the little crew that I have, and whatever. We go on rants, all these kind of things. So I just figure might as well take some of that, cut it up, and put it out. And if there's a good gameplay in there, might as well throw that out there too. The rare times we get some kills or whatever,
And people are just going to see those clips and be like, first of all, he's hilarious, but second of all, he's pretty good at this game.
Yeah,
and you're like,
exactly.
This is 12 seconds out of 12 hours, dude.
Yeah, exactly. If only you knew how long it took to get this one kill, it would be a sad experience.
But that's cool, because then people following you or watching your stories or whatever, IGTV or whatever the fuck it is, they're going to be like, I know whatever he posts is either going to be funny, a comic fail, or just an amazing kill that he can't believe that he did. So it'll be consistent to them. It'll be inconsistent for you because you're doing 12 hours of hit and miss, but to them it'll be consistent comedy content.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's fucking cool. Like, is there anything about gaming that lends itself well to stand-up comedy? Have you kind of are you good at why are you good at stand-up, and does that make you good or bad at gaming?
I think I'm good at stand-up just because I grew up with divorced parents, so that's always a big positive. Trying to read that little room, whatever, as a 7-year-old now, it's pretty easy to read a bigger room. You know what I mean? And in terms of games, I just think it's just practice, like anything else. Whatever. This guy, Ninja, the pretty famous gamer. No. He was just whatever. He's a pretty famous streamer, gamer. He's signed contracts for like $30 million this year. He always talks about just putting the time in, and people shit on him, but it's true. You game for 12 hours a day, you're going to be a little bit better than you were before.
And that's just like anything else. Like stand up. If in New York you hit 3 mics a night, you're going to get a lot better after a while.
Exactly. That's what's beautiful about the city. Although I don't know, really, I haven't been there in a couple months, but the mic scene was beautiful before.
Oh yeah, it's here. It's waiting for you. And I think they're doing mics in the park and stuff like that. And
I see all of that.
Yeah, reading the room is no longer the same because you're reading you're reading the park, and there was actually, I think John Marco Cerezi was talking about, he had a show, and within stone's throw of that show in the park, there was a mic at the park that he was trying to sign up for. So he was trying to coordinate the spots, and they were like,
that's awesome.
50
that is
feet
cool.
apart.
That's what's beautiful about the city for sure. So many opportunities.
But you're still gonna have to commute via, virus-infested fucking trains and shit.
I know. Although,
How about that?
it's interesting. I never stopped taking the train. I got fired from my sales job over Zoom. Actually, a little bit of a funny story. In March, I got fired from my sales job, and on the Zoom, they give you a work email address, and mid Zoom they deactivated it. So I actually got kicked out of the Zoom while I was being fired and had to rejoin with my personal email. It was one of the most tragic things I've ever had to do.
That's so funny. And the fact that you're dutiful enough to rejoin. You should, at that point, you should like, fuck it, right? The writing's on the wall. I don't have to rejoin.
I thought maybe they were going to give me some type of severance package when I rejoined, but that just never happened. It was just a big old fuck you and see you later.
That's fucking hilarious. So is that going to be a bit on stage?
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, everything is a bit on stage. I try and bring every kind of personal situation to the stage that, whatever is personal to me and that no one else can talk about. I think those are always the best jokes. And I'm more of a storyteller in general. So that definitely suits its hand for me.
Yeah, I wanted to explore that a little bit because, I was talking with Barry Doherty early on, and he fucking wrote comedy books that were forwarded by fucking Richard Pryor and shit. Like this guy was at the Friars Club, so this guy's a big fucking writer, and I was, kind of grilling him on whether or not stories can be funny, because there was this Judy Carter book that says, like, I think it's old school stand-up comedy book, Judy Carter, who said like stories can't be funny or something, but then you see people like Mulaney and Birbiglia coming out with some, hilarious stories. And so, how'd you get into kind of stories are the way to go, especially in the context of the fact that you started young when you're 18 and you took a couple years off?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just think when I started, I was doing kind of hacky stuff. I've always had this great stage presence. I'm not really sure where it came from. It's really the only place I feel comfortable is up on stage. I'm super social anxiety and insecure about myself, but when I'm up there, it's kind of just free flowing.
Okay.
So storytelling just kind of came natural. And when I started out stand-up, I was really just kind of telling dick jokes and just shock humor when I was 18, just trying stuff out.
Yeah.
And I knew I had this ability to tell stories to whatever it was, friends or family or strangers, where these stories would come alive and I would come alive while telling them, but I couldn't relay that on stage when I was so young. So I took a couple years off, probably from like 22 to 26, really just kind of studied comedy, took in as much as I could, read the books, watched every special I could, and really became a huge comedy nerd, and kind of just found out it's okay to bring your voice to stage, all this kind of stuff. And so once I started back up at 26, I just started telling my stories and it started going better.
Yeah, and I think that's the conclusion the conclusion he came to, this Barry Doherty, was talking about how over time crowds kind of evolve, and at this point in time, or more recently, crowds have wanted to, get more engaged with the person who's actually on stage. And I kind of liken it to the Nikki Glaser thing with her incredible misdirection. So there's a homeless guy, so I fucked him, and I'm like, no, you didn't. Three jokes ago, you were talking about a serious relationship, but then she got into more stuff from her life, like coming of age and figuring out that, oh shit, here's some sex things that this guy's going to expect me to do when I'm, my first romantic relationship. And to me, it just feels more like when you're even at some of these open mics where you have these jaded comics and they've seen all the misdirection and they're not shocked by anything. Are you finding that they're more attentive to things that are real, even if there's less punchlines in a story than there is in a, stand-up punch?
Absolutely. And I think it's a double-edged sword, sort of, because now you have this big phenomenon of clapter where people are just clapping and not laughing because they're agreeing with the story. And I couldn't hate anything more than that. It's just such fake. But then it fills the room with noise and all the kind of stuff. But yeah, I think people really are fiending for personality. That's why podcasts are so popular, because it's like a peek into the life of the person that you love. And back in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, you only saw these people, in a magazine, or that's why when they were dating somebody, it was the biggest news possible. But now you see their day to day, and you really get a more total picture of who the person is, I think.
So it's like now, because everybody has their own little tribe of fans, Mark Norman can do his little videos of, okay, here's me dying a miserable death at these at these mics or these shows in the park or whatever. And because he has his little tribe, he's not on this real pedestal like people in People magazine were back in the day. Every little comic has their own little fucking tribe, and that little tribe really wants to know everything about you, and they don't put you on a pedestal at all. They like you because you're not on that pedestal.
Absolutely. And the small tribe is a diehard tribe, I find, especially in the comedy community. That's why it's tough to cancel some of these people, because the fans especially of comedy, true fans will just always show out. They try and cancel Rogan every single day. His fans are just going to keep showing out.
Yeah, like even during the whole Joey Diaz thing, they're like, Joey Diaz will be fine because he has the church. And I didn't even know what the church was until I
Right.
figured out, like, when he ended the podcast, I was like, oh, that was the church. And what you're
Yeah.
saying is perfectly reasonable. Like, that guy can't be canceled if
Right.
a million people know that guy's backstory and knows that he says these things out of that shit I used to do when I was high or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
And so who's the Sam, like when Sam Sherwood has his tribe, what are they going to, they're going to know him intimately, and what in your past do you talk about on stage that they're going to be like, oh man, that could cancel him someday, but I love him because he's fucking real. Like,
right.
Is it the child of divorce?
Yeah, I think it's that. And I also just think it's my entire attitude is kind of, what's going on? What are we really doing? Are we serious? That's kind of my entire attitude. I just look at everything and I'm like, am I the only one who gets it? Yeah. Even conspiracies, this, that, food, eating, movies. I just look at things and I'm like, is that what you people really like? Yeah. How is that possible? I think it's going to be tough to cancel me in the future because I'm not, the king of hot takes or the king of dark shock humor. I'm just more of, is this really what we're doing here?
Yeah, because you
can just like a fed up attitude.
Yeah, you could ridicule people like true believers on both sides of every issue.
Exactly. Right. Like any conspiracy, 9/11, Epstein, there's so many different sides and the truth is out there somewhere.
Yeah, as a lawyer, I'm the same way. Like, Ruth Bader Ginsburg died last night. So
yep, R.I.P. to the greatest.
Oh, yeah. Well, there was fucking, we'll have to explore whether or not you were serious about that, but I imagine you are because, most of the comics are pro RPG, RBG. Yep. Bader Ginsburg. Luis Lopez said something like, don't fucking, say her acronym like she was a drunk sorority sister. Say her full fucking name. And Alana Altman did something like, what did he say? He goes, oh my gosh, he had a fucking perfect take on it. But I've been retweeting these things and it's all over the map. But, today you're reading about all the things that, the political, I'm a lawyer, so I can see all this fucking shit from the Congress versus executive branch versus, politics and how it's going to be a wedge issue for certain things and how it could lead to packing the court or killing the filibuster. And all these things are so fucking nuanced that I probably could ridicule things on both sides of this. Like really, do you really think the court's going to change that much when, even if he nominates X person? How are things going to change? Because it's all based on, the Supreme Court is filling in the blanks for what Congress can do and can't. They're reading the law. They're being like, no, the law says this, and that's why we can't go beyond it. And so if you're an activist judge, you go beyond it, you try to fill in the blanks. And if not, if you're like Sorich or whoever the fuck it is, you're like, no, it says this. So although the left wins, it says it because Congress only passed this. So Congress, go pass something fucking else.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So I mean, I think there is, I guess it's comedy gold because you can take the piss out of both sides. So like, let's do the thing on, Epstein, okay, or let's do it. Yeah, let's do Epstein first. And so, for example, for Epstein, Sam Sherwood, can you take both sides of Epstein? Can you take the diehard believers, or even QAnon, blend them together? There's this pedophile elite, and of course, Epstein was one of them. But the fact that there's 4 billion of them, and they probably include Tom Hanks because he wants to eat babies. But the fact that there's not only these pedophile elite who wants to eat babies, but Trump is the guy who's going to fight that. That's the funny part.
Right. It's the biggest delusion of all time. Here's the reality on Epstein, and I'll give it to you straight up. Yeah. Epstein was a CIA and Mossad agent, and what they do is they use people in high power as sexual blackmail. So they'll take Epstein, and it's a beautiful plan. They take Epstein, who's this rich billionaire guy. Right. They'll ship him around to different people, and he just makes friends with them. They don't know who he is. He's getting a massage. He says the girl's 18. I'm just getting a massage, honey. That's all it is. And then Jeff comes knocking at your door one day and he has a video of you getting a massage from a 16-year-old. Yeah. That's crazy. And now he's just like, hey, buddy, you're voting for this thing. And that guy's voting for the thing.
And it's not because it benefits Epstein, but because you say that
because it benefits the state. Yes, who is Ghislaine Maxwell, unfortunately.
And so do you actually believe that? Or is there another side of it that he doesn't have a handler?
No, I think he probably has a handler. If you really look into it, Ghislaine's family is so deep in ties with technology and the CIA. Her sisters sell these programs to the Pentagon that have back doors. It's all really, really shady and disgusting stuff. Okay. But it's not anything new. If you read this Nick Bryant book, he talks about the Franklin scandal. It was pretty much the same thing that's going on now in the 50s. A high prominent senator in Nebraska got caught with some boys. One of the boys actually escaped. I think they made a doc about it called Finding Johnny Ghosh or Who Took Johnny, something like that. It's fascinating stuff. And
cool.
It's just a history on repeat. I mean, not to get too political, but if you look at Trump right now, what he's doing, Law and Order, all of this stuff, it's taken a page right out of Nixon's book. It's crazy. Sure. Literally the same verbiage, the same pictures. If we don't look back at history, we're never going to learn. But
so you're able to kind of dive deep into this stuff and really kind of and that's why you can be cynical about the whole thing. It's like these true believers, they don't have the same grasp of the facts that maybe Sam Sherwood does, and so you can make fun of ignorance on both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that also comes from being from a child of divorce. I mean, I always go back to that, but it's like, they say never meet your heroes. Well, your parents are your heroes growing up, and when I was 7, my heroes were telling each other they were idiots and shitting on each other. So it's like it just breaks your reality, honestly.
Right. And so, I mean, I suppose you probably believe the deep state exists, and I probably, agree too. With every administration, there's a deep state because
absolutely
there's career officials that want to maintain their power. They have all these little fiefdoms.
Right.
They're always going to be there. But the fact that people think that Trump is actually doing anything to change
that's insane. The reality of the situation is Trump is just a bat out of hell. That's what he's not anything in the system.
Right.
It's crazy because, I mean, you see these pictures of Pence and what's his name? Pence and Biden, shaking hands the other day on the 9/11 funeral. Those guys are old buddies, I'm sure.
Oh, sure.
Meanwhile, and Trump doesn't know anything. They probably lock him out. They don't tell him any secrets, none of that. He's an idiot and all that stuff, but he's not in the deep state. He's not political. He's just a guy who tried to get in, and they will not give him any answers. He doesn't know about the aliens. He doesn't know who killed JFK. But all the career politicians 100% know all of that stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so somebody like Biden gets elected, let's say, and how does the deep state interact with Biden? Are they kind of on his side, presuming he starts their wars, etc.?
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure about Biden. I think Kamala Harris is probably the one who is more involved in that deep state kind of stuff. I'm not sure. Biden seems like he's really losing it. I mean, I'm going to vote for him because that's the situation that we're presented with, unfortunately, in this beautiful country where we have 2 options.
Yes.
You'd think a great country like ours would have 8 options or 10 options, 300 million people. We all have to pick 2 old white idiots.
Well, Sam Sherwood's tribe is going to elect him someday.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, other countries have 8 parties, 9 options. It's crazy how we're running on a document from 1776.
Yeah.
And whatever, 300 years later.
But I mean,
all you could do is look around. What was that? Sorry.
Yeah. So you're saying Kamala or whatever, she's a little bit juiced into the tech scene, etc. So she's going to kind of do their bidding. And is that, are they part of the deep state now? Is big tech part of the deep state?
I'm not sure. I know they're trying to. I think so, probably. But with AI and all the facial recognition software and what they're putting forward in terms of, trying to predict medical records and trying to predict criminality, it's all very, very scary.
Yeah, and so I suppose it depends on who gets these contracts. It could even be somebody like, if Microsoft gets the contract for tracking certain things or whatever, it's going to they're necessarily a deep state actor at that point.
Right. And also, a thing with these billionaire guys is everyone thinks these guys are lizards or eat the rich, all this kind of stuff. And I do feel, billionaires are disgusting. No one needs that kind of money. But at the end of the day, these guys didn't set up the things to be what they are. Mark Zuckerberg was just trying to rate hot girls at his college. You know what I mean? He wasn't trying to create a political propaganda. He looks like that in Congress because he's just freaking out. He doesn't know what's going on. He's like, where am I? So I feel for him and I hate him at the same time. It's a double-edged sword, really.
And so, what's the comedy product that is Sam Sherwood? Is there any kind of conspiracy theories that you can spin into a loyal following with comedy gold where they're like, let's see what Sam Sherwood has to say about this? Like, are you doing any kind of, commenting on this kind of stuff in your online videos? Like, whatever stories come out at Sam Sherwood _ or whatever tweets come out at Sam Sherwood _ like, can we expect that you're going to kind of reveal things about the deep state that people haven't, they haven't seen the documentary about the guy in the 1950s?
Absolutely. Anything that comes out, I'm on there giving my take, whatever it is, always. The hottest take, the freshest conspiracies you could find there. And when this podcast comes out, it's gonna be a big part of it because I don't know what led to it, but for some reason I found myself just getting more and more into this niche of being like, it's just crazy when you start to realize everything, and then we're just supposed to walk around like everything is all right. Like, I'm unemployed right now. I can't get a job. There's conspiracies going on. How am I supposed to work in an office when 9/11 was maybe planned? How am I supposed to do anything? It's just too much for me. I can't handle it. Truly.
It's so really, I mean, does it kind of lead to a little bit of helplessness when you find out that there's puppet masters out there?
Absolutely. Helplessness and just general sadness, honestly. General no hope for the future, but that's also almost beautiful because it lends me an even bigger perspective in wanting to do comedy, because it's like, if everything is fake, I'm just going to do what I want to do, and I'm sure it'll all work out, or not. It is what it is. We're just out here on the earth trying to chill, and it is what it is. That's my big thing. Just taking it easy and not listening to anyone but yourself.
Dude, I fucking love that, dude. The person with the unique perspective that's going to have his own tribe is Sam Sherwood, who is Sam Sherwood _ at both Twitter and Instagram. Track the Instagram, because although he doesn't post as much yet, he will, post his shit via the stories. And hopefully, when can we look out for that Twitch content of you playing video games for 12 hours?
Something in the next couple of months. I really am working on the design. I want to get the artwork right and all that kind of stuff. But by the end of the year, I'll be putting out some type of video podcast every week.
So I can't wait to see it. You're dude. You got all the conspiracies. you can let us know which conspiracies are real and fake.
Yep, I got you guys. Don't worry.
He's got you. Sam Sherwood, thank you so much.
Thank you, my man.